WisconsinEye's Campaign 2024 programming is sponsored by Wisconsin Counties Association, Nicolet National Bank, Wisconsin Hospital Association, Operating Engineers Local 139, the Wisconsin Realtors Association, the Wisconsin Laborers District Council, and North Central State's Regional Council of Carpenters. To support programs like this, please consider a tax-deductible donation at wiseye.org/donate or by texting WisCI to 44321.
Angelito Tenorio of West Allis is the Democratic candidate for the 14th Assembly District. The election is November 5th. Angelito Tenorio, welcome to WisconsinEye.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Welcome to WisconsinEye. And can you tell us what is your campaign's key message? Why are you running for this office?
Yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you about my background and my campaign. So a big part of why I'm in this race is because I deeply care about my community. I grew up in West Allis in a union household. Both my parents were postal workers, and it was those good paying union jobs that allowed them to provide for me and my siblings. Raised me in West Allis in District 14, and a big part of my background is my parents instilled in me the values of giving back and serving others. And I really found my passion for organizing advocacy during my time at UW-Madison. I'm a proud Badger, studied political science, and it was during my studies there I really saw the power of organizing, people coming together around a common cause and being a force for good. And that's what sent me down a path of public service, of politics, organizing, coalition building. I've done a lot of work on climate action, clean drinking water, voting rights. I served as an alderman in my hometown of West Allis, worked hand in hand with neighbors, community members, small businesses, elected officials to make our community better. And now with this race for state assembly, I believe better is possible. I believe in reimagining what we can do for West Allis, for District 14. And I'm in this race to make life better for all of us.
So if you're elected, what's an example of a bill that would be a priority for you to introduce?
Yes, one of the top priorities for my campaign and that I'm hearing from voters is accelerating our investments in clean energy and climate action, protecting our environment and making our community safer, healthier, more resilient. So I wanna introduce and pass legislation to accelerate our investments in clean energy. And West Allis, this is something we really care about in our community. We're a city with a rich history of being a working class community, a blue collar community. So we really believe in building things in West Allis, building things in our community, and making sure that we're increasing green union jobs in our community and across Wisconsin.
So you might know that the state is projected to have more than a $3 billion surplus. If you're elected, what would be your top two priorities for use of that surplus funding?
Some of my top priorities is supporting public education. This is something we really care about in West Allis in the 14th District. In fact, we have a referendum coming up on the same November 5th ballot investing in our public schools in West Allis, West Milwaukee, in the 14th District. And a big thing we can do that with the state legislature and the state government is use these surpluses to invest in our community, send these money back to the school districts. These are the people's dollars that are sitting in Madison, and we believe in bringing that money back home to our districts so we don't have to go to referendum every single election cycle. And I believe in finding also a new shared revenue model to make sure that our school districts, our cities, our counties are properly being funded and that they have the resources that they need in order to make change in our communities. So
schools are one priority for surplus funding. Do you have another one?
I do. Affordable housing. This is a big issue in my community. We in West Allis, one of the top things that folks keep bringing up as I've been knocking on doors, talking to neighbors, is affordable housing. And I believe that one of the big ways we can we can address those issues by building more housing and getting those dollars back to our communities and investing in affordable housing projects in our community.
What about tax cuts or tax reform? Is that part of your platform at all?
That is. I believe in tax cuts for our working class and middle class families, because especially with the rise in costs for working families, for middle class families, I believe it's the job of our state government to alleviate those costs by providing tax cuts for our working class and middle class families, especially when we have that multi-billion-dollar surplus sitting in Madison. Being able to provide families a break, make life easier for them.
You mentioned K-12 public education as a priority for you. What do you think is working well in K-12 education and what really needs to change?
Yes, I think one thing working really well is our incredible teachers. We have such an incredible class of teachers, public school teachers, union teachers, who are pouring their heart and soul into our kids, into our students, into our families, and being able to provide so much support, high quality education to our kids, to our students. I think the problem is that the teachers aren't getting the support they need in order to continue this high quality education. Teachers are being pulled in so many different directions, especially our special ed teachers. I was a paraeducator in a public school kindergarten classroom, and I saw firsthand how tight the staff and teachers are being pulled in many different directions. So I believe in making sure that our kids have the support and resources they need.
So that's an overall increase in funding per pupil?
Exactly. Making sure that our kids, our staff, our teachers, our families have what they need, because it's a tough time right now for our kids, for our teachers, and a big part of that is because of the underfunding of our communities, and that's leading to burnout, that's leading to exacerbated mental health crises, and that's leading to a lot of issues within our schools.
What about the state's higher education system? 4-year colleges, 2-year colleges, technical colleges. What does the future of that system look like to you, and where should the legislature focus?
Yes, no, that's a great question. This is something top of mind for me as a proud product of the UW system and my family as well. My brother went to UW Eau Claire. So our public universities are best of class in the country. UW-Madison's constantly ranked as one of the top universities, public universities, and overall universities in the world. And in order to keep up with that top rating, being able to attract the best professors, staff, the best students from across the world, we got to make sure we're adequately funding our systems, our UW system. And a big part of that is making sure that they're getting the support they need from the states, from the public, being able to rebuild aging infrastructure, for example. This is happening at UW-Milwaukee and other UW institutions across our state. Our UW system needs the support they need in order to make sure that their infrastructure is high quality and that our professors, our staff, academics, our students, our families get what they need as well. And this is something I also really care about with our technical colleges too, making sure that because a 4-year degree isn't a path for everyone, right? People have different passions, different backgrounds, different skill sets that they can bring. And technical colleges, our 2-year programs in the 14th District and across Wisconsin deserve just as much as attention as our 4-year degree programs as well.
What do you see as the state's largest workforce development challenge, and how would you propose to address it?
Yes, I think one of the biggest issues right now when it comes to our workforce development is the brain drain that we're having in Wisconsin. What I mean by that is that our top export from Wisconsin is our talent, is our people. People are constantly flowing down into Illinois, into Chicago, to Minnesota, to the coast because of other opportunities. I see this among my peers. Young people after UW-Madison, after UW-Milwaukee, they leave the state. So we need to continue to build opportunities in Wisconsin.
What should the legislature do about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the big things we can do is invest and support small businesses in Wisconsin. That's something that's really revived West Allis in recent years that I've seen. I've lived in West Allis my whole life, really care about this community. When manufacturing left, decades, deindustrialization, that really, really hurt our community. We lost a lot of good paying jobs. We lost a lot of people who left our community, who left our state. But recently we've seen we've seen a resurgence of development and redevelopment, a lot of new mom and pop shops, small businesses, coffee shops, breweries, restaurants opening up, creating new job opportunities with training programs as well. So I believe the state legislature can provide funding to support our small businesses, entrepreneurs, support labor unions as well.
I have a few more workforce questions for you. Investments in public and energy infrastructure grow our state's economy. This also provides an opportunity to invest in our state's workforce, but currently there are no requirements for hiring local workers. Would you support a state resident hiring requirement for state, local, and utility scale infrastructure investments?
I do. I think it's really important that we require and that we invest in workers in our community, and that these are good paying union jobs as well. I believe in making sure that we're strengthening workers' rights in our community as well. Wisconsin, we have a rich history of also being a spot where the labor movement has grown and in recent years has been under attack by folks like Scott Walker and the Republican legislature with the gerrymander, with Act 10, with right-to-work laws. This has really killed our workforce and really hurt working families. So a big part of what I want to do in the legislature with these new maps, with the pro-worker governor in Tony Evers, I really believe in flipping the legislature, flipping the assembly this cycle, state senate next cycle, and I believe we have a real chance of overturning Act 10, reversing right-to-work, expanding project labor agreements.
Let me ask you another labor-related question. Employee classification is an issue in the construction industry. Some employers misclassify workers as independent contractors or pay them in cash off the books. This lowers costs by avoiding payroll taxes and unemployment insurance, and it puts compliant companies at a disadvantage when bidding on projects. Plus, misclassified workers may be denied minimum wage protections or overtime pay. Are you aware of this issue and what should be done about it?
I am aware of this issue. This is a big issue in our community and across Wisconsin. I believe in a prevailing wage, and I believe in making sure that employees are being properly classified and that they get the wages that they deserve, the benefits they deserve, the retirement, and all they need in order to live and provide for themselves and their families. So I do believe in ending this misclassification and making sure that workers are paid their fair share. And that's why I'm a big advocate for organized labor in our community, bringing that back and strengthening workers' rights.
You mentioned housing as an issue in your district. I'm going to ask you a question about rental housing. Affordable rental housing is an issue across Wisconsin. Some support government-imposed rent control to maintain affordability, while others argue keeping rent artificially low will decrease rental supply, resulting in increased prices. Could you tell us more about your sense of housing as an issue and what you think best addresses rental housing affordability? Is it rent control, building more rentals, or some other solution?
It's going to be a combination of all the above. Affordable housing is one of the top issues that I keep hearing from neighbors. West Allis, District 14 is about 50% owner-occupied single-family homes and 50% renters. And I think one of the big ways we address this issue is by building more multifamily homes, reducing the regulations and red tape that make it so difficult to build multifamily homes. So we're seeing new developments and redevelopments of larger apartment buildings, which I think is really important in order to bring the cost of housing down in our community. I do support rent control because our prices for housing have just really gone off the rails and hurts working people, hurts middle-class families the most. So by doing all these interventions and encouraging multifamily housing and holding absentee landlords accountable too, because we have a lot of out-of-state landlords, corporate landlords who aren't providing the support and the resources for their current tenants. So holding them accountable as well.
Healthcare. Medical systems are facing numerous headwinds in the form of inflation, workforce development, and issues around Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement, resulting in fewer services and even the closure of a hospital system in western Wisconsin. What would you do to preserve access to care and prevent future closures?
Yes. In addition to affordable housing and protecting the environment and labor, affordable health care is also one of the top priorities of residents in my district and something I will champion in the state assembly. I really do believe in accepting the Medicaid expansion and increasing those reimbursement rates for our hospitals. I believe this is a way that we can lower healthcare costs and make sure that we're not closing down hospitals in our community. West Allis, the 14th district, is home to Aurora West Allis Hospital, and it's a great resource that workers and find opportunities at West Allis, Aurora, but also it's a place where a lot of my residents and neighbors find access to the best quality health care. So I think it's really important that we expand Medicaid in our community and make sure that we're lowering costs of health care for our families.
What about mental health care? Also a growing concern across Wisconsin. It's a concern for state and county budgets. What are you hearing on that issue, and what are the solutions?
Yes, no, I really appreciate you bringing up mental health, because this is also something I'm hearing from folks as I've been knocking on the door. We have a mental health crisis in our community, and it's really important that we take mental health care just as seriously as physical health care. So making sure that our residents, and when they go to the hospital, when they go to their doctors, that they have access to all the mental health care that they need. Expanding telemental health care as well. I think that's something that we can make mental health care more accessible and more affordable. And also destigmatizing mental health. I think that's been a huge barrier. By removing the taboo around mental health, that's a way we can also make sure that residents, that kids, young people get the support that they need.
How should Wisconsin move forward on the issue of abortion?
Yes, great question. I am 1,000% supportive of abortion rights in Wisconsin, especially with the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and with the role of the state legislature. We can enshrine Roe v. Wade in Wisconsin and make sure that we're protecting abortion rights for all people in Wisconsin, that we're fighting for reproductive freedom, and that we have that support and those protections for women, for people who need access to abortion, making sure that we have that here in Wisconsin and enshrining that in our state law, enshrining that in our Constitution.
What are the pressing transportation needs in your district, and how important is it that these needs are addressed, and for the state to keep on schedule with the reconstruction of our aging interstates and significant corridors of commerce?
Yes, I believe in West Allis, in the 14th district, one of the ways that I'm seeing improvement, and we need to build on this momentum, as we're redoing these state corridors that run through our district, these interstate highways as well. I believe in a policy of complete streets, making sure that we're supporting ways of transit, not just by vehicle, but making it easier for folks to walk, and make it easier for folks to bike, and making it easier to take public transportation, making sure that we're having alternative ways of moving around in our community. That's something I'm hearing too from folks on the ground, because people don't often feel safe when they're walking down the street or biking, when the infrastructure isn't there, when there's reckless driving happening in our community. So I believe we need, as we redo these state corridors through our district, we need to be really intentional about design and allowing alternative forms of transportation in our community.
PFAS and other water contaminants are a concern for a growing number of Wisconsinites. Do you see this as an important issue, and how would you propose to address it?
I do. Clean drinking water is one of the top issues I'm also seeing in my community. I worked for an environmental organization called Wisconsin Conservation Voters. So we did a lot of work on clean drinking water, whether from lead contamination, PFAS contamination, manure contamination. All of these are interconnected because it's often marginalized communities, people of color, working folks, who get disproportionately impacted by water contamination and other forms of environmental degradation. So it's really important that our state provides support to clean up our water, and that we reduce and remove and ban use of these forever chemicals. And on that note, accelerating our removal of these lead laterals in our communities as well.
Final two questions. How would you describe the leading differences between you and your opponents? You have two.
Yes. One of the biggest differences is my background, my experiences, and my aspirations for our community. I've lived in the 14th district my whole life. I've lived in West Allis. This is the community that raised me. And I really hope to give back to my community and invest in our community and make it the best it can be for everyone. Also, my track record in public service. I've served in the Wisconsin Army National Guard. I'm a proud veteran. And it really is that sense of duty and service that drives me with everything I do, personally and professionally. Served on the West Allis City Council, working hand in hand with our community members to make change for the better in our community as well. I've also worked as an educator. I love working with young people, love working with students, and harnessing their power, their ability to be change makers in their community. I'm a proud member of the AFT, American Federation of Teachers, and I really believe in the power of education and the power of our community as well. And when it comes to our district, I really have a forward-thinking, progressive vision for our community, making sure that our community, we're advocating for affordable housing, expanding access to health care, protecting our environment, fighting climate change, fighting for reproductive rights, workers' rights, all of these issues interconnected. In addition to fighting for voting rights and protecting our democracy, these are the issues, these are the values that separate me from my opponents. And we believe in a politics of optimism, a politics of reimagining what's possible for our community. And I'm really excited about this opportunity to serve and really hopeful for the work we're doing up to November and beyond.
Final question. Let's say you're elected this fall, you get a magic wand you can use in the state capitol to resolve one issue in a way that brings all people, all parties together. What is the issue?
Climate change. I believe climate change is the most pressing issue of our time. And this is something that's even more visible now than ever with Hurricane Helene, Hurricane Milton affecting the Southeast. Climate change is also affecting us in Wisconsin. West Allis has been rated as the hottest city in Wisconsin. And not hot in a cool, hip kind of way, but literally the hottest city come surface temperature. And a big part of that is due to climate change. And it's workers, it's communities of color that get disproportionately impacted by these heat waves and everything that comes with climate change. So if I had a magic wand, I would allow all of us to come together as a community across the aisle to come up with real solutions to combat climate change, to support clean energy, to build up green union jobs in our community, making sure that we're building solar panels and windmills in our community, and that we make sure that we're protecting our environment, not just for us today, but for all future generations.
Well, thank you, Angelito Tenorio of West Allis, the Democratic candidate for the 14th Assembly District. The election is November 5th. Angelito Tenorio, thank you for talking with WisconsinEye.
Thank you so much for having me.
This programming is brought to you by our generous sponsors. Thank you for watching.